Aloha, good morning, everyone. Happy to see a few of you commenting already in the comments, saying hello to us. Happy Aloha Friday, Ryan. We have made it through another week of the stay-at-home order. This, of course, is the COVID care conversation. Oh, I'm hearing, oh, you know what? It's me making sure that the live stream works. Hey, it's Friday. All right. This is the COVID care conversation brought to you by the Hawaii Executive Collaborative. They are a consortium of business and civic leaders working to make Hawaii a better place. And that's why we are here to help you get through this tough time, bring you experts and leaders to talk about the coronavirus in Hawaii. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning, Yanji. That's why we are excited to be here once again. We are here every weekday at 10:30 in the morning and sort of bringing on guests that connect with you, the viewers of the Honolulu Star Advertiser. So we want to thank everybody for tuning in. We know that Kanani is watching from the island of Molokai. Good morning, Kanani. Good morning to everybody that is watching. Today we have a very special guest. Britt Young will be on to talk a little bit about how to deal with everything that's happening here with this pandemic and our relationships with our families, with our spouses, and how we can just sort of mentally get through this. We know that there's a lot of struggles out there, be it on the economic standpoint, some of us really going through a tough time emotionally as well. So going to be great to catch up with her and talk to her a little bit about how we manage all of that. And that's really what we want this conversation to be, is a way to inform you, of course, of all the things that are happening with this COVID pandemic, but also how do we help ourselves and help our community. And the one way that we always like to stay connected is, of course, by keeping you informed with these latest numbers and statistics. And Yanji, we saw, again, a lower count yesterday once again.
Yeah, Lieutenant Governor Josh Green was on here yesterday, and he did give us those numbers a little early. So some of you who are watching there may know this already, that 11 new cases declared as of noon yesterday. That is relatively good news because we are just seeing this sort of flattening of the curve. It's exactly what public health officials want to see. 541 cases throughout the islands. No new deaths since Monday. So 9 total deaths in the state of Hawaii, which of course is 9 too many. Again, no new deaths since Monday, so we are happy about that. And the other thing is that there are 374 people who have now recovered from COVID. So when you hear that 541, it sounds like a high number, and it is, but it's, you know, we can take some heart in those 374 people who have recovered.
That's right. Those are great numbers. Also released yesterday was a sort of a framework that the president announced of when each state can sort of begin to open up their own states, giving the states the authority to sort of follow a guideline or phases that was implemented and recommended on the national level. And so there's a series of phases, and under the current phase or the formula and the structure that were set up by the administration, Hawaii actually doesn't meet the federal guidelines to actually lift the first phase by May 1st. Under that federal guideline, states with declining infections must see a robust testing system and can gradually reopen in those phases. And phase 1 includes strict social distancing while in public, while prohibiting gatherings to no larger than 10 people and discouraging non-essential travel. But also that they have to continue, each state has to see a continued decrease of those cases, which we have not yet seen thus far.
Yeah, so we are going to have the governor here on Monday to talk about that tiered system that the federal government has set up and try to get some clarity. If it's not April 30th, when does he think we can get to that phase 1 of starting to gently reopen? And the mayor also yesterday holding a press conference talking about how it will be an ebb and flow. They want to do a little at a time. And if they open it up a little and they see a spike, then we could see lockdown come back. So we really want to follow the guidelines. We are, you know, Dr. Green was talking about yesterday, we're in that sort of last third of the marathon, and we know it's really tough, but we have to stay the course or we add another 10 miles. So that's right. That's why what you're doing right now is so important. Staying home, following the guidelines, wearing those masks. A pretty sobering statistic in today's paper, 37% of Hawaii's labor force, fully a third of the people who are working in Hawaii have filed for some kind of unemployment benefit. That is just incredible to see. Nearly 250,000 claims have gone through that office. We know there's a backlog, and that's why we have another special guest coming on Tuesday.
That's right. Scott Murakami will be joining us to talk about those unemployment numbers. So we're excited to hear more about what the state has done there. But we want to get to our guests today to sort of talk about maybe how some of those numbers are impacting people, and just how all of this is having on families and overall mental health. Joining us now is Britt Young. Britt, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. We are thankful to have you here. First off, if you can sort of maybe give a background, let's start off with what you do and what you provide, and some of the patients that maybe and customers and clients that you're seeing right now.
Absolutely. Good morning, guys. Good to see you. So I'm actually the owner of a group practice called Explore Counseling, and we are a mix of marriage and family therapists, licensed mental health counselors, APRNs, and also licensed clinical social workers. So we have like 20 clinicians on staff. We have 4 offices around the island, and our biggest focus, our biggest goal is to get people the right help when they need it and kind of where they need it. So you won't call our office, for example, and get like a 3-month wait list. You can even see somebody typically that day or that week. We wanted to make, the goal was to make mental health services, quality mental health services available for everybody without long wait lists, which is what a lot of clinicians unfortunately are having. So that's what we do. We do individual therapy, couples therapy, family therapy, and we see a wide range of symptoms, from anxiety to depression, trauma, grief, a lot of couples and relational work as well. So you can imagine that during the final third of this marathon, this fatigue, right, this stay-at-home fatigue is really starting to get to people. We have a lot of people calling right now for services, and everybody kind of held back for the first couple of weeks, but I think now people are really just feeling it, and so we're trying to be there for them via usually telehealth. Some people will come still in person.
What kind of advice are you giving folks who are feeling that shut-in feeling and are having that conflict with loved ones?
Yes, exactly. So one thing that I feel like has been helpful for most of the families that I've been working with is keeping some sort of structure, especially if you have children. So in our house, for example, we have like a daily schedule. And even if we don't keep to it exactly perfectly, at least it's there. So, hey, morning time is a little bit of relaxation, then it's school till 1 p.m. And then we all go for a walk together. And if you can keep a little bit of structure around the family, next thing you know, it's 7 o'clock and it's getting ready for bedtime. There's no way to exactly mimic what life would be like outside of the stay-at-home order. So you can just do the best you can. And that might mean sitting with the family and going, okay, what should we do this week and how should our days be structured so that we're not all on top of each other? Because frankly, some of the problems I'm seeing arise is when there's a lot of pressure to like, let's make it all family time. Let's do that. And then there just ends up being a lot of conflict. Give yourself some space as a family. Structure your family time so that it's focused and directive. But you don't have to be on top of each other all the time. If there are separate rooms in the home where you can have your own time to do your own thing, please, for the love of all that's holy, go do that. Because normally when we'd be at work and school, and I'm not sure that we're designed as families to be all over each other every minute of the day.
I think one of the things that maybe people might feel that sense of, that they're not a good parent or that they're not a good spouse because of that feelings that they're having, the anxieties, the short fuses that they're having. But, that's got to be somewhat natural to kind of feel those feelings, but not have the guilt of feeling like you are a bad parent or that you're letting your spouse down by having that alone time.
Exactly. There's something called self-care, which is those things that we all have and that we do ritualistically that make us feel better, whether it's exercise or a bath or a book or whatever. And I'm asking people to really double down on that and not feel bad about taking that time. A happy parent is a good parent. And that really is an overarching belief system that I have and that I share. So if you are exhausted, distressed, upset with your spouse, you are then not going to be the best parent you can be. So if you like to read, take your time and read for an hour a day and make sure you can find some sort of general happiness, general satisfaction. And ipso facto, that makes you a better parent. So it seems oxymoronic, perhaps, that like the more time you invest in your own self, that can also be the best way to be a good parent. But that's in fact how it goes. And kind of, I've actually stayed off a lot of social media because I don't want to look and see like, oh, look, they're like baking cookies with their kids all day, every day. And then I feel bad. So maybe limit your exposure to like everybody's Instagram posts and what they're posting about like how great they're doing. That can also bring up a little bit of guilt. But at the end of the day, taking care of yourself as a parent, at least, will help you be an effective parent to your kids.
I definitely want to bring in some of the comments. I see that you guys are talking over here. Sorry, I know that there's a little bit of an audio issue. Brandon asked early on, I have a stubborn family member. How do you handle them during this kind of a situation and make them understand? I think he's asking, how do you make them, I mean, I don't know what specifically they understand, and maybe the severity of the situation. I know that for myself, I mean, just to share a little bit, we came to my mother's home. I'm here in Javi on the Big Island, and we came here what was supposed to be a week. We've been here over a month. And it can be difficult to make other family members perhaps recognize the severity of the situation. I know my mother would like to go out a lot more than I'm letting her. I'm not letting her out of the house. So maybe how do you make them understand the severity of the situation? I think if Brandon, if I'm not interpreting your question correctly, please clarify.
Yeah, so, one thing that I can recommend everyone do, whether it's a stubborn family member or just relational issues in general, is that first thing that you want to say when somebody upsets you, simply don't say it and wait a full 10 seconds. Like, just give yourself a minute to say it. So if you have a stubborn family member and you want to get some sort of messaging across, first of all, just give yourself a minute to formulate it in a way that won't come off as combative. And the second thing is to always start off with like some sort of positive and then go into the suggestion. For example, hey mom, I'm so proud of you for like tolerating us in your home for a whole month. I can't tell you how cool that is. But I've noticed that you like to go out like at peak times to the grocery store. Would you consider going at a different time? So HR people have known this for years. You kind of start off with the notion of like, hey, by the way, this is something you're doing really great. And then you sort of slide in what would you think about this suggestion? If they're especially stubborn, just going at it and saying, you need to do this and you need to do that is probably going to end up turning into a conflict.
Ryan, can you bring in Noreen's question? I think that's a good one.
Yeah, so Noreen is asking, my husband and I have a hard time dealing with the children, different ways of teaching. So we now are finding that parents are having to not only be parents, but teachers as well. And maybe their style of teaching is now conflicting with one another, something that they never had to deal with before. What would you recommend in a situation like this?
Oh, we've got that going on as well. Yes, so I'm not sure all parents were meant to be teachers, and here we are thrust into that. One thing I can suggest is that neither of you be uber judgmental of each other for each other's teaching methods. And then maybe formulate a structure where like you take on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he takes on Tuesday, Thursday or something. And that way your children get a little mix of each teaching style. Unless it's actively harming your children academically, then your husband's probably doing the best he can. So I would say instead of being maybe judgmental toward his style, you can give gentle suggestions, but you may just want to give him an opportunity to teach the kids his way in a limited capacity, like he takes on some days and you take on some days.
I wonder how much you suggest sharing with your children about your own anxieties. I know that, my daughter, she's almost 4, she's 3.5, and she brought me her little stuffed animal and she said, Lammy has the coronavirus. And I was shocked because I didn't, then I started to ask her, well, do you know what the coronavirus is? Who told you about that? And I think it's just because I have every news conference on, I'm talking about it, we're doing this, and she just hears in the background. And she's obviously on the younger side, but what is your advice generally to parents as to how much of this we share with them, how much of our own anxiety we share with them? Because it's a problem right now for so many adults without a solution. How on earth do we explain it to our kids?
That's a really good question. So what we're looking at is like two things the human psyche loves is control and predictability. And when we do not have those things, even the person with the lowest anxiety on the scale is going to feel something. And guess what? Coronavirus is this like perfect stew of lack of predictability and lack of control. So chances are most of us out there are feeling some modicum of anxiety. And the interesting thing about kids is that they are almost like little antenna. So let's say you feel anxious, right? And you don't even really feel like you're projecting that in your house. But absolutely, your kids are going to feel what you feel. Mommy feels anxious. I feel anxious. The difference is you know why you feel anxious. They don't. They're just feeling the actual feeling. So you do need to supply them with information about why you're feeling a certain way, because chances are they're feeling it too. They just don't know why. So something along the lines of like, hey, you might have noticed that you're feeling some worries, and maybe you're seeing me and you're looking at my face and you're seeing that I might feel a little bit worried. Well, the reason why is because, you know, we're as a community, we're dealing with this thing called, she knows it, so you may as well say it. It's called coronavirus, and it's kind of like the flu, but a little bit different. And we don't have like a flu vaccine or a vaccine for it yet. So while we wait, we all have to do these things. At a 3-year-old's level, that's all it is, right? At a higher level child, go ahead and say, you know, we're working as a collective on trying to find a solution to this problem. Do you have any questions? What have you heard out there? And the older teens can tell you. But one thing to keep in mind is that if you're feeling sad and you're like, yeah, but I'm smiling throughout the house, but I feel really sad, your kids are also noticing the sadness. They're probably feeling it with you. So you may as well give them some information and understanding of why you're feeling that way, so they know why they're feeling that way. Does that sort of make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have that there's a little bit of feedback when we initially start talking, so I know some of you can hear that initially, so we apologize for that. But once we get talking, it seems like it's okay. But one of the other things that I wanted to ask was, at the end of this, when we sort of find ourselves making our way out, how do you think that this whole experience is going to impact families and impact the way in which we maybe interact with one another, or how we treat? I mean, what is the long-term effect that you think this will have on overall relationships?
That's a great question. You know, what there is something called trauma bonding, and it's a psychological phenomenon that happens when people are going through something quite traumatic together. And it's like this heightened sense of like closeness and bonding and everything. And once the trauma passes, yeah, people kind of have some, frankly, post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms where there's like triggers. And for a while, I believe that if and when someone's coughing next to you, you're going to have a little response, you know. So long term, I think we're going to have different triggers, I predict, in the community. I hope that we have some new guidelines, like perhaps we take the cues from maybe Asian countries, where if you're sick, maybe you start wearing a mask, which is very helpful for the community at large. So I'm thinking some positive things can come out of it, like maybe more consciousness of how we're spreading germs. But long term, relationally, I predict that we'll have some initial trauma bonding, and then we probably will all as a collective have some post-traumatic stress where we'll be impacted by triggers. We will be still alarmed when somebody coughs. You know, some ugliness has come out of this, people tackling each other in the grocery store. I think that will pass, but people judging others for their behavior in public, that's probably something that will take a while to go away. Something that I think will actually come out of this that will be wildly beneficial is resiliency. If you talk to anyone who's been through the Great Depression, World War II, the Holocaust, they will tell you that at the end of the day, this has helped them understand that they can indeed get through difficult times. So our children, this generation, hopefully, as they encounter difficulties in the future, they'll be able to say, well, you know what? I went through something pretty intense with COVID. I made it through okay. So bring it on, you know, bring it on, which is something that some would say millennials, you know, that generation didn't have the opportunity so much to build the resiliency. But now everybody has the opportunity to do that. And resiliency is the one thing that we believe in the mental health community that helps people really get through life, overcome setbacks, And if this has tested all of us to the point where we now have a little bit more toughness, mental toughness, and some resiliency, then we can look back on this as a narrative and say, hey, maybe this was actually a good thing in the end once we get through it.
All right, that's great. We want to thank you so much. We know that you're still seeing patients, and we appreciate you taking the time to spend with us, to answer a few questions. And we love. Hopefully, we're not here in 3 months or 2 months online, but if we're still here, we would love to have you back on to kind of give us an update and more tips as we kind of go through all of this together.
Anytime, y'all are doing an amazing service for the community. And this is also something that has come out of this, is that even though we've seen sort of some ugly sides to humanity with all of the, panic buying and maybe that type of stuff, we have seen amazing things come out of this as well, like the two of you getting creative and figuring out a way to communicate clearly and concisely things to the community. So I will come on anytime.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hello.
Unfortunately, we had those audio issues. I don't know what the feedback was, but it was great to hear from her. And at the end of the day, I thought, a couple of really good tips there about finding a space, whatever space you can in your home to be alone. If you are parenting and teaching with someone else, to kind of take turns. We don't all need to be there doing it at the same time. Perhaps your husband or wife or your spouse has a different teaching style. That's okay. They're learning something, as long as she said it's not harmful to them. If they're not doing it right in your way, that's okay. And also leading with the positive. So I'll remember that. Hey, Mom, thanks for letting us stay here, and please stay home.
Yeah. By the way, you're locked in. You're not going anywhere. Yeah. No, and I also think, one of the things that a lot of us is that we are getting to a point where we may feel, like I said, guilty for feeling these ways. So I think finding a space and finding those opportunities to get away is good. And I do agree about that resiliency. I think a lot of people it's really testing how strong they are, how strong their family is, how strong they are communicating, how strong they are in their business and their efforts. So it's good to kind of put more of a positive spin on this and try to feel ways where we can kind of find the positive that comes out of all of this at the end. And we kind of do see that light at the end of the tunnel here. And as we heard from the Lieutenant Governor yesterday, we just have to be encouraged to continue to keep pressing on through that. So great to have her on. Again, we'll have more information about Britt in our caption. If you want to contact Explore Counseling or reach out to one of them, we'll give you the information to reach out to their counseling services should you maybe need it.
Yeah, I know a lot of us could use a little one-on-one session with a therapist for sure. We also want to get to a couple of headlines before we go today. One of the big things, Honolulu Salary Commission voting no for a 3% raise for officials. We kind of knew that this was going to happen. They have to take up the salary issue because that was on their agenda. But the mayor already saying, even before they met right here on this program, that he would not be accepting any raise should it be offered. It's not offered. So that's great to know that, that issue is put aside, because a lot of people feeling really angry when you see 37% of the state applying for unemployment benefits. You certainly, bristle at the idea of public officials getting a raise. The other thing that Britt talked about was getting outside. That's super important. But before you do, there's a really important article you need to read in today's paper.
That's right. I mean, one of the things that I think a lot of people are doing, they're taking to the streets, they're running, they're finding ways to get outside and taking advantage of the opportunity to exercise while also maintaining that sort of 6 feet distance and being under the order, so to speak. But there's an interesting article in the paper today about how a runner can trail respiratory droplets up to 30 feet directly behind them. And researchers are saying that 6 feet may not be enough distance for joggers or walkers or those who are even cyclists when they are outside, when they are exercising, because they can actually release those respiratory droplets that can trail in their wake now, which they're saying sort of their slipstream for up to 30 feet directly behind them. So it's a great read in the paper by Mindy Pennybacker. I encourage you to go out there and take a look and read that article about how you may think twice about the way and where you go and work out, because I can tell you, I went for a run yesterday, or a walk actually, not a run. And there are a lot of people that are still out there and that are running.
Yeah, and so it might be time to think about wearing a mask when you run because, like she said, we want to cocoa everybody and take care of each other. And if you are leaving a 30-foot stream behind you, perhaps it's time. I know it's probably not the most comfortable thing to exercise with a mask on, either that or you need to make sure that you are definitely alone. But please do check out that article by Mindy Pennybacker. We always like to highlight our Hawaii hero of the day. And today we have sort of multiple heroes, all part of the Show Aloha Challenge. We told you about that before. That's an effort by Lanai Tabora and a bunch of other business owners and restaurants and community groups. What they are doing is they are they're taking donations, buying meals from local restaurants, and then delivering that to kupuna who don't have the ability, the funds, or the resources to drive out and pick up takeout. So right now they're providing food to 800 seniors a day, which is incredible. And by doing that, they're also supporting restaurants because the local restaurants, they do it in 2-week cycles. So they pick a dozen restaurants for 2 weeks. They buy meals from that restaurant and those restaurants, and then they go to the next restaurant and so on and so forth. And Ryan, we've got some amazing contributions, Hawaiian Electric and Hawaii Dental Service Foundation. HDS donating $150,000 to this effort. Hawaiian Electric putting up $50,000. They're the two biggest donors. They actually have a donors list on their page, and you can see, all the way down to like $10. $10 buys a meal. So all the way up to, as we said, Hds with $150,000. Just an incredible service. They're now serving Oahu, Maui, Molokai, Lanai, and Hilo. I don't know what happened to Ryan, but there he is.
A lot going on.
Switching. If you are interested either in donating or in signing up to receive a meal, showalohachallenge.com is their website. Check them out. And the other thing that one of their biggest challenges is finding drivers. So Elite Parking has stepped up. Their parking attendants are now volunteering to go out and actually deliver these meals. So we really see so many facets of the community coming together, supporting local restaurants and feeding seniors in need.
Yeah, it's a great tiered system there where they have that they're supporting the kupuna as well as the restaurants, and great to see those companies get involved. So we mahalo everybody who's been involved in this. And again, for more information, be sure that you can also head over to their website at showalohachallenge.com where you can get more information about it. Maybe you want to make a donation. Again, any donation can help to not only support these businesses that are really looking for help, these restaurants and these food service providers, but also to our kupuna. So encourage all of you to go and support them for that. We know also that there are a number of people that are still looking to get tested. This city actually announced a series of testing that will be happening over the next 3 days. For more information, you can head over to oneoahu.org for a complete listing, but they're actually taking sort of the show on the road, so to speak, going on Saturday to the Polynesian Cultural Center. Sunday, they'll be back at Kaka'ako Waterfront. And on Monday, they'll be at Kokohead District Park. So reaching different parts of the island to really help to get people tested for those who want to get tested.
Yeah, remember, you have to have symptoms in order to get the test. So it's not sort of a blanket test for everyone. You actually have to have some of the symptoms, fever, coughing, what have you. But oneoahu.org has all the information. They're 9 to 1 at those various sites. So good to see, because we know that testing is so important in this effort. The other thing that's so important is masks. Remember, mandatory mask order goes into effect on Monday. There are some exceptions. The mayor clarified that yesterday. Those under the age of 5, anyone with asthma or breathing or health conditions, first responders, and if you're heading into a bank or a financial institution, you don't have to wear one then. But all other business transactions, if you're out and about, wear a mask. Monday, Tuesday, our grace period. Wednesday, they start levying those fines, $5,000 or up to a year in jail. But as Ryan put up that slate there, if you don't have a mask, you can get one.
Yeah, that's right. Everyone Hawaii, again, continuing to provide that free mask service. They're working out sort of the details and logistics of how they're getting those masks out, but they're receiving a large number of people who have already signed up who want access to a mask and want that free mask if they don't have one. You want to make sure you check out and register by today at everyonehawaii.com to sign up. I believe the deadline is this afternoon. So right after this, make sure you head on over, log on, and make sure you sign up for that. We're actually going to be speaking to a representative of this organization that really kind of put this effort together and this campaign and this initiative. We're going to be speaking to them on Monday, as well as we'll also be speaking with Governor David Ige. He has committed to speaking to the public through our platform every Monday, moving forward for the rest of the month and going into next month as well. So we are have the opportunity to speak to the governor again. We want to encourage all of you. We know that last time there were a lot of questions that came in for him, and of course he has a lot of information. So we want to encourage you to tune in next week Monday for that, and send in your questions for the governor, and maybe one that you may have for the representatives for everyone Hawaii as well, who will also be joining us. So we have 2 guests coming up on Monday.
It'll be a technological challenge for us. You know, this medium, this medium presents its challenges, but we are trying to bring you as many people as we can. And to that end, on Tuesday, just to give you a preview of the week ahead, we've got DLIR Director Scott Murakami to answer your questions about unemployment. We know that many of you, obviously a third of working people in Hawaii, have filed. A lot of you folks have not gotten any response yet, or maybe you have trouble with the website, can't get through on that 800 number. So we're going to have him on. He's going to answer questions. Then we've got Dr. David Duroff of Kokua Kalihi Valley to talk about some of the challenges with our kupuna, the people who are most at risk for having major complications or even dying from COVID. So we want to talk to him about how to protect seniors in our community. And then Thursday, Friday, more great guests.
Yeah, we have Ron Kochi, Senate President, who will be on Thursday. It'll be interesting to talk to him about sort of the proposed budget shortfall that is happening and how the state is going to be looking for ways to really fill the gap, so to speak, if the rainy day fund will be used. It'd be great to kind of talk to him to get his experience and his knowledge from the legislative perspective and how they're looking at ways to help to fill that void. And then coming up on Friday, we'll be talking to Kauai Mayor Derek Kawakami, who has made a lot of headlines with sort of his sort of hardline ruling that has set on the island of Kauai, but seems to be working, and a lot of mayors actually following his suit after he implemented some of those curfews and some of his restrictions. We'll be talking to the Kauai mayor next Friday. So another full lineup next week. Again, we are listening to you, our viewers, and those who are letting us know who you want to hear from. We recognize again that there are a lot of unemployment questions, so that's why Scott Murakami is coming on for a 3rd time, potentially a 4th time the week after. So we want to connect you with the information and the people that you want to hear from. So continue to comment, let us know who you want to hear from, and we'll try our best to get these individuals on the show.
Yeah, so until Monday, please take care of yourself. Remember to stay inside as much as possible. If you do head out, get a little fresh air. We know you need that, but make sure you are practicing social distancing. Wear a mask if you have one. If you don't, go over to everyone and register for one. We will see you here Monday at 10:30. 10:30. Until then, have a great weekend.
Aloha. We'll see you next week.